Hey, it's your old pal Lucid Stew again. In this video, we're going to take a look at some renderings and do a director's cut audio for the Texas to Arkansas high-speed rail video that I did in September of 2024. So here we are along Interstate 20. This is east of Fort Worth. So one thing about this scene and all the scenes in this video is that I was not able to do subtractive alterations of the map at this point. And because of it, a lot of these are going to look like garbage. At the same time, that also facilitated these actually getting done, because if I had to do the amount of work that would be required to actually make this look correct, I'd probably still be working on it. This shot right here is coming out of Arlington on the east side on the way to Dallas, which is in the background. Here you see an artifact of Unreal Engine 5 that I hadn't figured out yet, where there's shadow pop-in. That's one thing I actually have fixed at this point. This particular sequence is really long. I have used it in several videos, but never more than 15 or 20 seconds at a time in each of them, and it's usually a different part. While this video was specifically the part of the South Central high-speed rail corridor that goes to Arkansas, a big early part of that is the Dallas-Fort Worth high-speed transportation project, which is being visualized here. I thought that would double up as a good discussion of that project to go hand in hand, but didn't really realize that no one was going to click on this video, and I didn't really make it clear that was a key part of the video. By the way, this video is one of my least viewed since 2023. And this is one of the reasons that I've come to the conclusion that people in Texas really just aren't all that interested in the subject. The response I get on Texas videos, at least, is multiple times less than a place where it's popular like California, and even slightly lesser portions of the channel like the Northeast Corridor or Chicago Hub Network. The interest in Texas is nowhere near as much, so it gives me an appreciation of why construction hasn't been happening, but we'll see. Supposedly both projects are still under consideration. Dallas-Fort Worth high-speed transportation is for sure, because the North Central Texas Council of Governments is still working on it. Okay, so this scene in here is one of the proposed routings of Dallas-Fort Worth high-speed transportation through Dallas. There are two. The other one goes further east through downtown. The reason there are two is because the Dallas City Council had a major objection to the initial routing. This routing was in response to the developer that owned the Reunion Plaza, seen here, complaining that the other routing conflicted with their development and planned development. Objectively, both routings are ridiculous, and they're going to be going through a big portion of the city on viaduct that's somewhere between 75 and 100 feet high. Not very fast, and that's all to reach the Texas Central Dallas station site when Texas Central probably isn't getting built. Regardless, both routes are still under consideration. The city of Dallas just did a economic feasibility study not too long ago that concluded that the eastern route would actually cause economic damage, so that one's probably out. This is my approximation of that station. It's a fanciful design. This is only 2 tracks right here. The planned station has 4 tracks, but the planned station should be elevated by about this amount in reality if it's ever built. So it's a pretty wild plan, but that's what's been environmentally approved, so that's what they're sticking with. And that's despite the fact that Texas Central Railway does not look probable right now. This is my obligatory train pulling into the station shot. This is normally where I provide travel times and average speeds. Here you can see some animations on the trains where the train doors open and close after the stop. That's built into the asset. I don't have anything to do with that. This station, actually, I pieced together from probably 15 different elements that are just random things that I happen to possess from different kit bashes. This is a portion of the Texas Central route that travels south out of Dallas. That's also quite high elevated to get over the Dart line. And I did not use this portion in the video. You can see that Dart line crossing under this line up ahead. Further south of there, the train has to transition to a different interstate. I don't recall what it's called. Interstate 45, maybe? Oh no, this is Interstate 45 and it has to transition to Interstate 20, if I remember that correctly. I put the train way higher than it needed to be. You know, in reality, it would cut through this hill, but like I said earlier, I didn't know how to subtract from the map data at that time. If I had to redo it, I would do it quite a bit differently because this thing where the train is on a 100-foot high berm is pretty ridiculous. This is in Texarkana, which is quite a ways away from Dallas, but between the two, there really is not a lot of 3D building data for Google Maps. It's mostly flat. So I just had nothing to show between there and here. The layout of Texarkana is pretty complicated as far as high-speed rail goes. I just went ahead and rolled with it. You're looking at quite a bit of reconfiguration of what's there already to squeeze this into the existing station. I don't know if that's really realistic. I did in the video I did propose having a bypass to the north that looked like it was a lot more doable, and then perhaps a single electrified track to allow a stop at the station with minimal impact. That seemed a little bit more possible. It's worth noting that Texarkana is a twin city situated on the border of Texas and Arkansas. That diagonal road in the background is actually the state border. Here the train is leaving Texarkana, and it's the same thing. You know, I've got electrified lines right next to freight, really without any concern. But ultimately, to make this work, you're going to have a lot of reconfiguration. You're going to have cooperation with the freight and all that. This portion's also quite a bit slower than the other possible bypass to the north. And it's also not impossible that you could put a station on that instead of here in downtown. This is a little bit further down the track where, still in Texarkana area, where the train would transition from the freight rail right of way back into the interstate. I thought this was a pretty good looking shot right here. This is about the only part of this that I used. One interesting part of working in 3D when you're trying to figure out these maps is it really informs you to the possibility of this happening. You know, you can look at it from a satellite and think, oh, well, maybe, but when you're working in 3D space and something fits, it really reconfirms the idea. This is way down the tracks again in the Little Rock area. This is coming in from the south. Again, same deal. There just really isn't very much 3D building data on Google Maps between Texarkana and Little Rock. Also the same thing here where we're moving through a forest. This would be much lower than this, but I couldn't get rid of the trees at that time. If I had to redo the video, I would do it a different way and it'd probably take me twice as long. It's a nice shot of downtown Little Rock, though. The other routing I thought people might find slightly implausible because it runs through a bunch of hills to hook up with an abandoned right-of-way, and then it kind of runs through an industrial area before crossing that forest that we saw earlier. The alternative that would run along Interstate 30 through the Little Rock suburbs has its own problems. As you can see, this would likely require quite a bit of viaduct, and not only would that not be fast because of the interstate geometry, but it would probably be expensive as well. Here you're seeing some behind the scenes stuff where the way that the traffic generator for cars works is the cars will not spawn if the camera is looking in the direction where they could potentially spawn. So in order to get traffic generated on a scene like this where I have the camera on the scene the whole time, I actually have to direct the camera away from the scene first so the cars can generate, and then they run down the road, and basically the system stops generating the cars. Right here, the train has transitioned out of the Interstate 30 right-of-way, and then it's transitioning to existing freight rail, and that freight rail then leads into downtown Little Rock, which is seen in the background. And then this is coming into Little Rock on the existing right-of-way. So we saw that building and kind of this skyline from the other perspective. This is where the two alternative routes would hook up. Again, it was a pretty good shot of Little Rock. That type of thing's generally what I'm looking for to include in the video, where we can combine a good shot of the train and the place to just give a general idea of what this might look like. And then finally coming into Little Rock Union Station. Again, this is a pretty good shot where we get to see the whole city. You really get a good appreciation of the proximity of the station and downtown, and how convenient it would be if something like this existed. And that's the end of the line for South Central High-Speed Rail into Arkansas. What would happen from this point is really not elucidated by the government. In my Red State high-speed rail video, I proposed continuing on to Memphis, Tennessee, which seemed like it might be doable. Anyway, that'll do it for this one. Make sure to like and subscribe. As always, I'll see you on that big, beautiful freeway.